So this is finally going to be a video about the growth of rugby in North America. I say finally when I make an attempt at getting my first YouTube video, because I intend to um, write a book about this. And the title is likely going to be The Growth of Rugby in North America. The video was basically about how rugby in North America is about to explode in popularity within the next few years, and how sports organizations, businesses, and media can possibly benefit from it. And we also have the upcoming Rugby World Cup in 2031. It's certainly going to cause this to happen, in my opinion, exponentially. I believe the growth will be very gradual. In the case of this particular World Cup, uh, I mean, starting as of from today moving forward, it's going to be very gradual. Um, but the biggest growth spurt and benefits happening after the event has actually been hosted, which is the World Cup of 2031. And of course, the US is also having the Women's World Cup for 2033 Rugby World Cup. Now, this is the second time that the World Cup will be hosted in. And hell, I'm just watching a rugby match as we speak. So yes, I'm doing this because I'm a passionate rugby fan. And from what I see, Ireland is scored against South Africa in the U20s. Anyway, so that's just a sideshow. And oddly, I've been getting to wanting to do this video for such a long time, and I need to get on with it. So I've got to put it on YouTube and get all my attachments to it. I don't know if it's going to be acceptable, but we'll give it a shot. This video, I mean. We're talking about Japan and how incredibly successful Japan turned out to be with the hosting of their Rugby World Cup. Pretty much all of their games sold out. It was unbelievable because when a lot of people, when Japan were awarded the rights to host the Rugby World Cup, we thought it's going to be a flop, because what the heck, Japan doesn't have a lot of interest in rugby. I was guilty of that too. I thought, heck no, geez, I can't imagine Japan being successful. But they proved everybody wrong, and it's to the much to the joy of everybody who likes rugby. It was great. I mean, the Japanese were incredibly gracious hosts, and they sang the anthems of pretty much all the teams. South African anthem is not an easy one. And from the get-go, when the South African team arrived and the New Zealand team arrived, they had groups of Japanese people meeting them and singing the anthem to every team as they arrived. This was just unbelievable. So now we look forward to what will happen at this World Cup in 2031 and the build up to it. And of course, the main reason I'm actually putting this together is because is what people of organizations, sports organizations, media, and a little stuck here, sports organization. Yeah, should have written it down a little better. But anyway, this is a practice run again. Still, yeah, sports organizations, media, and business can possibly benefit from it. Yeah, I already said that, didn't I? So a little bit about my background. Being raised in Cape Town, South Africa, outside a rugby stadium, like literally a few meters out of a rugby stadium, not even 400 meters from a very big rugby stadium called Newlands, probably one of the most famous rugby grounds in the world, which is now being actually just recently been closed because the tenants have moved. It was actually owned by Western Province Rugby, and they've now moved to Cape Town Stadium. Being raised in South Africa, I was like 5 years old, Rondebosch, and I was parking cars for these Afrikaner tourist visitors who came they came from all up north, tourists from the northern provinces to come and watch Western Province playing Northern Transvaal at the time. And I used to I used to help park the cars, and I'll never forget sitting there one day and I came back outside. I just finished having a little snack to eat and I came back outside and my mom had given me, I think it was supper. But when I came back out, the guy that parked the car there was so impressed and he says, "Oh my goodness, you're still here. I can't believe it. Thank you, young man." And he took out and gave me another tip. He first tipped me when I came and then he gave me another tip. I was so proud and so happy. I wasn't going to say, well, I wasn't here all the time. I was really enjoying, doing it. And I really took an interest in rugby because of that. And I followed the Springboks and Western Province. But now the thing is, I was not just a rugby fan. I was an all sports fan. It sounds a little bit, it's all about me this time, but it's going to be about me because I'm going to be the author of this. I also followed soccer and cricket in Cape Town. I used to listen to commentaries to the point that my father would scold me, say, "Good Lord, Roderick, you have a ridiculous." I remember the word he used was, what the word Dad said? "You have a phobia for commentaries." Now, phobia actually means you're scared of commentary, but I guess I don't know what the heck he was thinking, or maybe he just didn't understand the meaning. Maybe you see words come around. It could have been a new word back then, phobia. Just like so many words now are new words like, oh my goodness, what's a modern word today that we never used? Narcissist, for example. That word never existed maybe 10, 20 years ago. Never heard the word. Now, suddenly, if I get my sons calling me a narcissist, well, okay, maybe I am. I think it's a joke a little. It's kind of used loosely. But anyway, as I mentioned, I was really, really into sports, into commentary, into following Western Province, the Springboks, Cape Town City, and of course, at the time it was called the Springbok cricket team as well, but now they changed their name to the Proteas. And of course, then came the time we were going to emigrate to Canada. And then, of course, then I started looking at the North American sports scene. And I thought, wow, that's going to be fantastic. I'm going to miss rugby. And I know there's not big rugby there, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what football was all about because they got the same, the game looks the same. And from what I learned, it was it sort of evolved from rugby anyway. So it's going to be exciting. Initially, it wasn't that exciting to me because it wasn't rugby. Actually, and funny enough, at the time, rugby's evolution, when we moved over to Canada, rugby was actually quite boring in comparison to how it is today. What with the sevens game having spruced up the rugby landscape and having made it more popular all around the world now, with the sport being back in the Olympics. So, I was looking forward to what rugby was all about. So, and of course, Dallas Cowboys became my favorite team, my favorite football team. Before I got there, I was, Dallas Cowboys. When I arrived here, then I started, because we lived in the Toronto area, so it became interesting Buffalo Bills. And of course, since I was living in Toronto, Canada had a different version. It's like a 3-down version versus a 4-down version. We're not going to get into explaining what downs all mean, but to the rugby fan. But in Canada, the Canadian Football League was 3 downs, and in America 4 downs. So I followed the Argonauts. Again, when I arrived here, then it was. We took to being a crazy sports fan as I was, and of course my wife didn't take much longer. After my arrival to Canada, my wife soon followed. We got married. I went home and got married in South Africa. Came home with her, and boy, we just took to the North American sports scene like crazy. I used to be passionately watching the Toronto Maple Leafs. And although they have never won a cup for us since we lived here, and of course, and then at the time I was passionately following the Toronto Blizzard showed up and as a professional team in the North American Soccer League. So we followed them, but then the North American Soccer League collapsed. That was before USA hosted the World Cup in 1994. Then I also followed, of course, the Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays won the World Series twice. So, geez, it was really crazy. I remember um, getting a brand new vehicle, a brand new Dodge Caravan, and blowing up, but damaging my horn a few days after I bought the vehicle because I had my hand on the horn. Everyone was celebrating, and of course I jumped on the bandwagon, so to speak, and we went down the streets. I remember my son Rudy sitting with me, and blowing the horn. I'm sure he will actually remember it, you know. And then all of a sudden, I held the horn, and we're driving, and the people were waving flags. Um, yeah, and then of course that was the end of my horn. I remember I never bothered fixing it. That van lasted me, I think, 17 years. And, you know, the horn was never an issue. It's just like, whoop, whoop, whoop. I mean, I think if a cop had stopped me and checked the horns, we would have actually been given a ticket. Okay, and you know, so and of course, then you have the Toronto Raptors that have won um, the, the 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 title, the North American title. Um, so Canada pretty much shut down when the Raptors won. You know, of course, like in Toronto FC soccer team followed with the birth of the Major League Soccer. Major League Soccer was spawned just before, I think it was just before the, or was it after? I have to double check that. The soccer FIFA World Cup 1994 when it was held in the United States, and that was another amazing event that, you know, people thought would fail, and it was said that nobody, and then, you know, went around interviewing people just days before, and at some ridiculous figure like 90% of Americans didn't even know that the World Cup was going to be hosted a week prior to um, to the event itself. And only when it started did people wake up and find, oh, there's something happening here. Soccer, or, you know, kickball game. A lot of people called it the kickball game. It's like, oh, geez, it's so far into North Americans at the time that it was called kickball by a lot of Americans. Football was their version of, you know, throwing the hand, but I mean, nonetheless, people loved it. Now we look forward to the growth of rugby, just the same as the growth of the FIFA World Cup '94 changed the soccer landscape, and now we have another one coming in 2026. Where, hey, Canada is also going to be hosting the 2026 Soccer World Cup. What does this all have to do with the rugby that's going to be following? I think it's going to be tremendous. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for the growth of the sport. It's going to be crazy because there's a possibility that Americans will take to rugby more than they actually took to soccer, because it's seen as an extreme sport here because everyone says this is such a crazy game. Nobody wears pads, because in football they wear pads, but in actual fact there's actually more sports injuries in football than there is in rugby. Nonetheless, I'm rambling on and on here, but this is a video about just the initial video. I might even just put it up just to get started, and maybe I can improve on it. And I'm going to talk more about how the sport changed. You know, sport has the ability to change. Nelson Mandela has a saying: sport has the ability to change the world. Something like sport has the ability to change the world. Or, you know, so it certainly changed South Africa. I can tell you, particularly when South Africa hosted the 1995 Rugby World Cup, and apartheid had just ended, and it was like incredible because it was on a knife's edge whether this whole